you were trying to explain the importance of EALA, because to many Kenyans, and I think you've seen that conversation going on social media, and I think today's Daily Nation has also captured it, where it tends to claim that the only place where you can dump political rejects is EALA. Is that just the aspect?
No, that's not just, and that's not true. East Africa Legislative Assembly is a very important organ for the countries in this region. There's a lot of legislative agenda that goes on in that house. Like for example, when we're talking about the East African Cooperation, the countries, the East African countries coming together, our president said very soon we shall have one currency. For that to happen, there has to be some legislation behind it. And that legislation cannot happen in the Kenya Assembly, it cannot happen in the Uganda Assembly or the Tanzania Assembly or any of the other East African countries. It has to happen in a legislative assembly that is for the East Africa Legislative Assembly. So there is a lot of work for that. There is a lot of trade between the East African countries. Most of that trade has to be governed by guidelines, has to be governed by legislation, has to be governed by rules and regulations, and all of that has to be legislated somewhere, and that is the East Africa Legislative Assembly. And of course, part of the work of of our members of parliament who have gone to East Africa Legislative Assembly is also to do what we call parliamentary diplomacy. They're also ambassadors for Kenya in the East Africa Legislative Assembly, and they are there to protect the interests of Kenya vis-a-vis, the interest of the larger East Africa. You see, we've been having issues on our border with Tanzania. We've been having issues on our border with Uganda, and that's a platform in which we can resolve some of those issues in terms of having a discussion with their fellow legislatures on the other part. So it's a very important organ, and the people we have sent there, as I had told you earlier, are neither Kenya Kwanza nor Azimio now. They are Kenyans now, and they are representing the interest of this great country called Kenya.